exhibits, Court Exhibit 1, which is the Fort Dodge Messenger, Exhibit 2, which is the Daily Freeman Journal, and Exhibit 3, which would be the Metro section of the Des Moines Register. I know that there's also been internet accounts of this as well as national news accounts. I would specifically request that the court ask the jury those questions. And the exhibits that I've handed the court on 1, 2, and 3 would all be today's editions of those papers identified.
Mr. Cameron, you want to
respond? And Judge, most dramatically, Exhibit 1 with the photograph of the Pink Journal and Mr. Sarznicki holding that up.
Your Honor, the state would resist the defendant's request. The reason is the state is concerned. The court has already admonished the jurors not to read or follow this case in the media. The concern is if we start polling jurors now, it may pique their curiosity, and the state would request that we don't do that. Unfortunately, if we do that, maybe someone on the jury will want to look at, see what's in those articles. So the state's request is just to remind the jury of the admonishment the court gave them is not to follow any of this case in the media until the case is over. Then they can read it at that time.
Okay. One thing I noticed about this jury panel right from the opening round of voir dire was that when we got some of these folks back in the chambers, inquired as to when they raised their hands. I think there were about 20 of them that raised their hands initially out of the 32. That indicated they may have read something or seen something in the newspapers about this case. And what really impressed me was how many of them said, knowing that they were potentially going to be jurors, they ceased reading the article at the headlines. So I agree with Mr. Hamrin. I think now to come in and say, how many of you, what have you been reading, what have you seen, et cetera, I think could cause them all to, boy, maybe we ought to go to that and take a look more than back off. I have no problem at the conclusion, for example, of today's hearing, once again to more than give my normal remember your admonition and go into a little more detail saying you understand that we're seeing more and more news accounts that are appearing in the paper. It is most important that you not engage in reviewing those reports or the articles or anything on the television or anything of that nature. And your focus has to be solely on the evidence that comes into this courtroom and nothing more in deciding this case. I'll be happy to do that, but I really do not want to get into a situation where we're polling the jurors. If we poll them today, then we probably have to poll them tomorrow and the next day, et cetera. I really don't want to do that. So your motion will be denied this time. Now,
thank you, Your Honor.
I'll hang on to these as Court's Exhibit number 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, Your Honor, we'd offer those at this time.
Okay, very good. We will not go back to the jury, obviously, but we'll hang on to these. And in fact, what I'd like to do, if we can, Jody, would you be so kind as to put these back in your office? And I'll be or Gabriel, never mind. Thank you. And I think you can, first of all, I'd like to have the attorneys come up here a minute.